gotta accentuate the positive. That's all be in front of the don't miss it. Gotta spread joy to the maximum. Have faith, the pandemonium, I will walk on the sea. Illustrate, bless you more, don't what did they do? Just when everything looked so dark. Man, they said we better accentuate the positive. That's all. Be affirmative. Don't mess with it. No, don't mess with it. Straight, the last tomorrow, don't end it, no way we are. Did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said we better accentuate the positive and make the negative. Latch on to the affirmative, don't pessimistic. No, don't pessimistic. Hello, my name is Curtis Crawdad Brayfield. I'm the, right now I'm the only member of the Crawdad and the Boilers. I figured what I do is, instead of just playing you a bunch of songs, I play a song and tell you why it's in my set list or how I turned out to write it. This one's a cover, obviously, but if I write an original, I might tell you a little story behind, how I wrote it, or just tell you a little bit about myself, because maybe you don't know me, and I think I got an interesting story. Ac-Cent-Tchu-Ate the Positive was recorded back in 1944. What it was, Johnny Mercer wrote the lyrics. I forget who wrote the melody for it, but Johnny Mercer wrote the lyrics. He was the guy that did the Chattanooga Choo-Choo and did some other songs, but he was the one who wrote the lyrics to it. And what it was is the publicist had been to a preacher, seen a preacher. Man was known as Father Divine or Reverend Divine at various points. He's actually a cult leader, I'll be honest with you. He's pretty sketchy, and I don't think he was preaching from the Bible. But he'd been to see this preacher one Sunday, and the message out of the Bible was, or the message for that Sunday was, accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. And he came back and he said, here's a great line for a song. And Johnny Mercer took that and he wrote Ac-Cent-Tchu-Ate the Positive. He released it. Actually, he basically had it included into a movie called Here Come the Waves. And it was released in October of 1944. Then Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters covered it in December of 1944 because it started becoming popular. Here's the thing. So at the time, the musicians were on strike in the 40s, and musicians were on strike, and you couldn't record music. The reason why was you bring in it was all big bands, or mostly big bands, and you bring in a big band, you got 20 people in there. You cut a song, you're recording a song, and in the studio, you usually just paid the musicians, straight union pay for the day, or for the time in the recording studio. The guy who was the band leader, like say Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, they would get the money for the royalties. Or if you had somebody singing on it, like Frank Sinatra, he would get some of the royalties as well. But the musicians didn't. So the leader of the musicians union basically had everybody go on strike. And so from 1942 to 1945, there was no recording by musicians at the time. The only exceptions were radio, because radio programs were very big back then. And so you could record a radio program, and generally speaking, that was allowed mainly because they did it for the soldiers overseas, for the Liberty, I think they call them, Victory records, that they would ship overseas so that these guys could get a little taste of what was going on back home. And that's where the Bing Crosby and Andrews Sisters version came from. The other exception was soundtracks. And so a lot of the music that was coming out between 42 and 45 were either stuff that they rushed in and recorded, because they recorded a bunch of stuff and put it in the cans from like 1941 up, because they knew that there was going to be a strike. So they recorded a bunch of stuff to release in dribbles and drabs, in case this strike went on forever. And the other things was, because back then musicals were big, a lot of people did work for soundtracks. Bing Crosby, the Andrews Sisters, several other recording and music acts would show up in soundtracks just to keep busy, just to keep their name out there in the people's minds. So, and that's where the song came along. And one of the reasons why I grabbed it was because, first of all, my mom, she was born in 1936. She introduced me to a lot of stuff, big band, swing, crooners, stuff like that. And this is one of the songs that she introduced me to. And also, actually, I remember learning this song in music in like elementary school or maybe middle school, as part of like a music history thing. And we were talking about World War II. We learned this, and we also learned Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition. We sang that in class as well. But having said that, it's weird because I distinctly remember knowing about both those songs way before I took that class because of my mom. And the other reason why is because, this came out during a time where we were basically in the middle of a depression, fighting 2 world wars. The head of our country was a basically decrepit, old Democrat. Wow, it sounds a lot like. But anyway, let's not talk about politics. But it's one of my favorite songs from that era, and I like to play songs that are older, because if the audience doesn't know them, then I can lie and say that I wrote it.